Welcome to Red Recaps. For today's video, we'll be doing a recap of the romantic comedy movie 40-Year-Old Virgin. Sit tight and relax for a fun ride. Let's get started. The movie started with a man named Andy riding a bicycle to his office. Andy arrived to his work at Smart Tech, and one of his coworkers started storytelling about his weekend. He told Andy that he went to Mexico and saw a woman having sex with a horse. He asked Andy how his weekend went, and Andy told him that he was just making eggs. Well, at least Andy's weekend was not about an animal making love with a human, so that's something. Meanwhile, other salesmen in the store are talking about inviting Andy on a poker game. They're reluctant to invite Andy because he looked like a serial murderer, but one of them insisted on inviting him because there's no other choice. They invited Andy, and Andy willingly agreed to join their poker game later that night. They play hands of poker, and Andy was surprisingly good at it. As the night gets deep, all of them shared their sex stories. One about foot fetishes, one about the pureness of sex, and one of them about a dog licking his ass. Yeah, you heard that right. And when the three of them finished telling their sex stories, they asked Andy what his nastiest sex experience was. Andy started telling the most generic sex story of all time and told them that breasts are just like a sack of sand. After Andy told them his sex stories, they deduced that Andy was actually a virgin, a 40-year-old virgin. Andy tried to deny it, but it was too late. He doesn't have any experience with women. Andy went home obviously frustrated by the stupid story he made up. He went to work the next day and was still irritated by the fact that they know he's a virgin. And guess what? The entire workplace already knows that he's a virgin. Everyone's teasing him about being a bona fide virgin. And Andy, who's in total disbelief, ran out of the office, and David chased him, insisting that it was a little joke. David cornered Andy, and Andy told him that the reason he was a virgin was because he respected women. Well, that's one way to say it. David helped Andy to calm down, and they went to a coffee shop to talk about it. In the coffee shop, David convinced Andy to try it even if he's 40. Try to take a girl out, have sex. He insisted that he and his coworkers will help him get laid. Andy went home, and as soon as he fell asleep, he dreamt of bizarre, erotic dreams? Is he having nightmares about sex? The next night after that day, Andy and his coworkers went to a bar to help him get his first ever experience. His other coworker, Jay, gave him a tip that those drunk women are the ones he should target because they are vulnerable. Well, Andy, who was an obedient man, obliged and came searching for a drunk woman. But he ran into his coworker, Cal, and he told Andy that there's a bachelorette party that they need to join. Andy met a woman in the party, and they talked. And suddenly, the woman kissed him, and she insisted to bring Andy somewhere else. Is this it? Will Andy get laid? Let's find out. They went out of the bar, and the woman, who's drunk, drove the car. The woman drove the car carelessly, and Andy was too nervous to even talk to her because of her driving. She's too drunk. They crashed onto another car and barely arrived home safe. Well, Andy refused to have sex with her after she puked all over him. And after that delirious driving, Andy stayed a virgin. Andy told his coworkers what happened the next morning, and they laughed their butts off. Andy was in total disbelief. They went back to the store, and Andy met a woman who's inquiring about a VCR. And the woman, who's a store owner, gave Andy her number. Is this Andy's new chance? His coworkers learned about it, and they celebrated Andy's success. They went to a beer house, and all of them got wasted and drunk. Andy tried to call the woman, Trish, but got a change of heart the last second and dropped the call. He asked Jay at work for some tips to be confident, and Jay told him to get rid of his chest hair because it looks bad on him. They went straight to a wax salon, and Andy looked like a Wolverine under his shirt. He screamed in agony as the woman waxed his chest. Andy left in the middle of the session, and his chest looked like a hairy Halloween pumpkin. He just angrily went home, bloodied and partially hairless, all over his chest. As Andy went to work again, Cal told him that he should listen to him and gave him a tip that the key for getting laid is to know how to talk to women. and Andy obliged as he shoots his shot on the blonde woman. And surprisingly, Andy was a smooth talker, and the woman named Beth seemed to like our guy, Andy. Way to go! He went home and his coworker David knocked on his door with a box full of porn. Andy reluctantly accepted David's stash, but proceeded to watch it anyway. And he prepared for it like he was going to get laid. Oh man, Andy's such a virgin. After that day, all of them went to a speed dating event wherein you can meet loads of women. Andy met with several women, but all of them were not his taste. Andy's coworkers were getting desperate to get him laid. In desperation, they set up Andy with a prostitute in a hotel. And guess what? The woman they tried to pay was actually a man. And Andy was in disbelief. Andy told his coworkers to just stop messing with his sex life, that he can pull off a girl on his own. He then went to Trish's store to prove them wrong. And he bravely asked her out, and she agreed. That's our man Andy. He called Trish right after and told her that they can have their date that night. The problem is he only rode a bicycle, so Trish decided to pick him up. Well, Trish picked him up and they went to a Chinese restaurant and did have a great time. They went home together and they're kissing. Is this it? Is this the night Andy will finally get laid? Trish told Andy to put condoms on while she is in the bath, but Andy doesn't know how to use it. He never used one before. But right before they can get with the fun part, Trish's daughter barged in, causing Andy's once-in-a-lifetime moment to go down the drain. Andy's just unlucky. Andy went home, and he has a problem. His erection won't go away until morning. He's too excited for Trish. The next morning, his store manager, Paula, approached Andy and asked him if he wants to be her sex buddy. Andy told her that he's going to think about it and head to his coworkers to tell them what happened about his date with Trish. Cal and Jay convinced Andy to tell Trish the truth, that he was indeed a bona fide virgin. Andy invited Trish on a fancy dinner, and Trish told him that she actually has 3 kids, and that they should refrain from doing anything sexual because it might complicate things. Andy, who doesn't want Trish to know that he's a virgin, happily agreed to do it after 20 dates. He went to Trish's house and met her kids properly, and he seems to get the hang of it. Cool stepdad. He went to the office the day after, and the store manager, Paula, told him that he's promoted as a floor manager. She also hinted to him again about being her sex buddy. Paula really wants virgin Andy. Meanwhile, Jay was having a little commotion with a customer, and Andy learned that Jay's girlfriend broke up with him. Now he's in tears. Andy comforted him. After work, Andy and Trish's relationship seems to go well. They dated numerous times. Her kids even like Andy. Things were really going well. Then one morning, Trish called Andy and told him that she had a major problem. Her daughter wants to have birth control to have sex with her boyfriend, but her mom won't let her. Andy volunteered bringing her daughter to a birth control clinic. As they arrived at the clinic, the doctor was teaching the kids facts about sex. But Andy might need it more, as he was asking a lot of questions. Well, it didn't go well, and they just went home. Meanwhile, at work, Jay revealed that he was having a baby, and his girlfriend made up with him. And it's all good now. Jay's going to be a father. Remember how many dates Andy needed to go on in order to have sex with Trish? Yup, 20. And tonight, well, that marks their 20th date. Is Andy finally going to have sex? Is this the end of his virgin career? Let's find out. Andy was obviously nervous, but Trish assured him that she absolutely liked him and that he's got nothing to worry about. But what is this? Andy got mad because his precious toy fell off and that Trish is making him do things that he doesn't want to do? He's blowing it. They have a heated argument and Andy walks out and rides his bicycle to Jay's party. Andy arrived at the club and he's getting himself too drunk. The drunk Andy insisted that he's going fishing for girls who don't want commitment, just a woman that wants sex. And he got one. They went to the woman's apartment to have sex. The woman is taking her clothes off. Is this finally it for Andy? Meanwhile, Andy was nearing the summit. Trish was seen riding his car, coming for Andy as she wants to apologize to him. What's going to happen now? Let's see. Trish tried to call Andy, but he's not answering. He's on the verge of having sex. But Andy was hesitant to do it. He doesn't want to do it with just a random girl. And he left. But what is this? His coworkers are outside, concerned about him. They are his true friends. They told Andy that he needs to make up with Trish because they know that Andy loved her. Andy biked all the way home and found Trish in his room, and he quickly apologized. But Trish found David's porn collection there, and some nasty sex-related stuff in Andy's room. And now she's suspicious of Andy as she ran away. She drove away and Andy chased her with a bike. He crashed into Trish's car and flew off his bike. Andy's such a daredevil. He laid down in the road and he finally confessed to Trish that he was a big 40-year-old virgin. And Trish doesn't mind. She truly loves our Andy. And they got married. Our virgin Andy got married. And finally, Andy got laid. He can't believe how that felt. And they did it for 2 hours straight. Way to go. That movie was funny and interesting as well. Did you enjoy the video? Leave a comment down below if you liked the movie. If you want to watch this movie, you can watch it by clicking on the links below. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching Red Recaps. I'll see you in the next video.